Welcome aboard the BK Escape Pod. That's right, it's the augmented and bionic podcast version of the live show you can hear Saturdays from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. Eastern on 100.3 FM and AM 1450 WBHF Radio. You can stream the show live there Saturdays at WBHFradio.org or on the free Tunein app. Look out, here we go.
Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. Movie Macabre with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, ran from 1981 to 86 for a total of 140 episodes. As a local late-night series on LA's KHJ-TV, no one could have predicted that it would become the huge hit that it did. Elvira soon earned the distinction as the very first horror host to be syndicated nationally. Hailing from Manhattan, Kansas, the young 4-year-old Cassandra Peterson told her mother that she wanted to be the queen of Halloween. Clearly, her wish came true. Inspired by Anne Margaret, she was discovered while attending a show in Las Vegas. Capitalizing on her stunning good looks, she convinced her parents to sign on the dotted line, thus making her the youngest Las Vegas showgirl ever at just age 17. With a bit of coaxing from her friend Elvis, Cassandra realized that she had more to offer than just dancing skills. By 1979, she was in Los Angeles developing her comedic acting abilities as a member of the prominent improv group, The Groundlings. Once she landed the horror hostess gig in 1981, Cassandra combined her genuine love of the genre, her comedic grooming, and a heavy dose of sensuality to create the iconic character. The show was an instant hit, and within weeks, she found herself on The Tonight Show, sitting next to her fellow guest, Vincent Price. According to Peterson, from there, Elvira took off. With cameos on TV shows like Chips, as well as a national campaign for Coors Light, she would eventually end up on the big screen. In 1988, Peterson co-wrote and starred in her own feature film, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and later, 2001's Elvira's Haunted Hills. To this day, with over 1 million fans on Instagram alone, Elvira's extreme popularity keeps her in high demand for fan events and conventions around the globe. As Cassandra says, she hitched her wagon to a holiday. Thus, the immense legacy of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, or should I say, the Queen of Halloween, lives on.
David, I have the story here. I saw this and I'm like, well, okay, part of the story is rumor, but I have something along with it that dovetails, that kind of fits in with the story as well. Warner Brothers is set to release Christopher Reeve's Superman films in 4K UHD. Looks like they're ready to release it. Superman 2, Superman 3, and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, in early 2023, according to two different sites. DigitalBits.com and the Superman homepage are kind of both had this come out, and I don't think they're not a frivolous sites that just put out horrible rumor. If they've got a hint of something that's going to happen, it hasn't been officially been released as a thing yet, but they're talking about it. Now, like Superman the movie from 1978, which saw its 4K Blu-ray release back in November of 2018, so it's already been out there, the first film. The one that really captured my imagination about Superman, and to me it's the gold standard that all superhero movies should be judged by. It's expected that the 2023 release of the Christopher Reeve Superman films, the rest of them, will also feature Dolby Vision HDR and Dolby Atmos audio as well. Now, what's cool is you don't want to miss, maybe with Superman 2, and 3, but you don't want to miss all that great Dolby Atmos sound with Superman 4, along with all the crappy effects in Superman 4, where you see the wires on him and the blue screen is horrible after Canon Films took over from Warner Brothers. Yeah. You don't want to miss that.
Do you realize I've never seen 4? I had no desire.
4 was a great idea, but it was poorly executed because I think Warner said, the last Superman didn't do all that well. We're going to we'll distribute this, but we'll let Canon Films produce it, or whatever. Because, Canon Films was popular for doing things like Chuck Norris films and rip-offs of big movies like King Solomon's Mines is a rip-off of Raiders of the Lost Ark with Richard Chamberlain. So they were doing that, but when you watch Superman 4, you can tell Canon did it. You really can. Plus, the editing in it was atrocious. Now, while there's been no official announcement from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, as I said, Amazon UK does have a listing for the 4K UHD release of Superman 3 listed on their website. I guess that you can order from them as a pre-order for an April 3rd, 2023 release date. So I think that's cool. At least you'll be able to get Superman 2 in 4K. It'll be the Richard Lester cut, the original theatrical film cut. But let me say this: I love the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 because he was the guy that made over 80% of the film already before they fired him. When Superman 2 came out, even in its form that we originally remembered in, I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I'm like, oh, it's like Jaws 2. It was like, we talked about that too. Superman 2 was a great sequel to the first Superman film.
It blew me away, and probably because as a kid I had not seen a whole lot of movies. So the idea of taking this little piece from the first movie, the prisoners who were exiled,
and tying it all in,
and all of a sudden they're back. How did they do that? Who was creating? Like in my kid's brain, I was like, that's so clever. Now there's 3 other beings with the same powers of Superman
from his planet. Yeah,
and they're bad people.
And it's like they're as strong as he is. That could be a threat.
And watching Superman 2, the idea that, well, I'll give up my powers so I can be with Lois and be mortal. And don't do that now. Not with the 3 bad people.
That was horrific as a kid. We're like, no, don't do it, Superman. Don't do it.
Loved Superman 2.
We were different as kids, and I'll tell you, there's one scene in the I can't remember if it's Spider-Man 3, one of the Raimi Spider-Mans. He's in the crowd receiving the award. They're giving Spider-Man an award. And Gwen Stacy in that one, the blonde, who's played by Dallas Bryce Howard. Yeah. Bryce Dallas Howard. I always invert her name. I got to remember it's alphabetically correct. I think it's Bryce D. Dallas Howard.
BDH.
I think and you're watching it and you're like, he's like, give her a kiss, Spider-Man, give her a kiss. And she starts to just peel down his mask to kiss him.
Yeah, but he's an encourager. Go ahead, do it.
But you cut to the little boys in the audience and are like, no, Spider-Man, don't. Don't kiss her. That's terrible.
What's funny is now as an adult going in relationships, I'm like, what are you thinking, Peter Parker? Of course Mary Jane's not going to be cool with this.
She's in the audience watching this, and that's the way you guys kiss. Don't do it.
Tobey Maguire, such a good job. Like, what? I was just posing.
She's in my lab class.
Yeah, she's my lab partner.
Well,
wait, what?
I don't think that you heard this, and I only learned it yesterday. But this is kind of a rumor too. So this dovetails with the Superman thing. There was a article came out that said Steven Spielberg meets with Warner Brothers bosses, fueling Superman rumors. Here's the story. Director Steven Spielberg has reportedly met with Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, fueling rumors that the pair were discussing maybe the next Superman movie, it says. The Hollywood Reporter's Heat Vision newsletter, too, Spielberg and Zalavs recently met over lunch with Christopher Nolan at lunch and DC Studios co-CEO Peter Safran, also eventually joining the meeting there for lunch. They're just having lunch, who knows.
They just announced him and not Zack Snyder, but director of Guardians of the Galaxy.
James Gunn.
Yeah. The 2 of those guys are going to be in charge of the DC universe now.
Goodness knows. We'll try something else. Why not? And it goes on to say, while only the 4 men involved in the meeting know for sure what they discussed, of course, the fact that they met has led to much speculation, especially when it comes to Spielberg possibly helming a Henry Cavill Superman film. And, Henry Cavill just got replaced on The Witcher. So I don't know whether that was his choice or it's just, I'm stretched too thin. I'm going to be really busy here coming up. So
well, plus he's going to be James Bond, right?
Well, I wouldn't mind seeing him as James Bond, but if we go with what the Bond producers say now, that they want someone in their late 20s, early 30s to really start off and move through start young and keep him for years, Cavill's too old then at that point. So I don't know what they're going to do. Hey, we'll know who Bond is when they announce him, but it's fun to speculate. That's for sure.
My whole issue, I get it from if we have somebody young, we can lock them into a contract. We can make a lot of money with somebody for 20 years.
Yeah.
The problem with Bond from the books, it's somebody that has to have lived through war and the intelligence agency, then be trained as a spy. This isn't going to be a 20-year-old. This is going to be somebody who's probably early 30s by the time they've had enough experience to be trusted in the role they're going to be in.
And what is it now all of a sudden? And it's been gradual. For years, we didn't have a problem in Hollywood and in entertainment, television, whatever the medium you want to talk about, with age. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, he's too old to do that. He's too old to do that." I'm sure there is an age where someone's too old to do that. But number one, you're kind of suspending your bit of believability when you're talking about fictional films and stuff. You're already asked to allow them a little creative license with stuff like jumping over cliffs and landing perfectly on the other side. There was a TV show on in the early 80s called The Equalizer with Edward Woodward. They would never do that show again today because the guy in the show was over 50 and was the star and the hero of the show. To me, age doesn't matter. I mean, you can start with a guy who's Bond, who's 35, and take him all the way up to just as, I mean, some argued that Roger Moore was too old when he gave up. But you know what? We watched Moonraker, For Your Eyes Only, and A View to a Kill, and Octopussy, and just totally just loved it. Mm-hmm. I didn't for once go, he's too old. Because I'm in a movie watching a guy I've been watching for years as Bond, and I just left that at the door and was entertained by the movie.
Right.
And I don't care about that. So
I don't know if you have any
my
stack,
age rant.
but because you brought up Warner Brothers, I am encouraged by something. Maybe there is a backlash to the woke culture, because the CEO of Warner said, we want to do more Harry Potter movies. We are meeting with J.K. Rowling.
Oh, wow,
I don't
didn't
care
see that.
about all of these people who are mad at her. She's a great writer. She's got a great imagination, and we want more Harry Potter movies.
Well, how does any of that erase her talent and what she's done already? That should really have nothing to do
well,
with it.
ask the woke culture.
Well, I hope. Well, anything they do with Harry Potter will have to probably go by her.
Well, yeah, that's why the CEO said we're going to talk to her.
Speak on there. We'll have more when we come back.
We'll return after these announcements.
From a doomed planet in a distant galaxy to a fantastic underground hideaway, from the Fortress of Solitude to the bustling city room of the Daily Planet. Look, up on the screen, it's Superman. Superman, the movie, rated PG. Now playing. Check newspapers for local listing.
Attention, Superman fans. Superman glasses are coming to Taco Bell.
That's right. Taco Bell is offering Superman glasses with exciting scenes from the movie. There's 6 of them. Every time you buy a medium-sized Pepsi-Cola, you can buy a Superman glass. But supplies are limited, so hurry down to your Taco Bell and start your own collection of Superman glasses.
Superman glasses, now only at Taco Bell.
This is Lex Luthor. People know who I am. Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you.
It's okay if you don't understand what he's talking about. He probably doesn't either. It's VK on the air on AM 1450, FM 100.3, and online using the Tunein radio app.
Oh boy, are we having a wonderful conversation off the air that we cannot have on the air. That's by choice, so. But it's always nice to be able to hear the sparks fly when we're off the air, and just as much when we're on the air. I can make some sparks fly here from time to time, and let's make a little weird sparky stuff going on right now as we flash the audience of the news, the weird, the strange, and the bizarre. Got a couple of maybe leftovers from Halloween on here, but there's some stuff that I thought was interesting. I'll start off with the first news. An Illinois couple's Halloween decorations are going viral, or they did, thanks to the closely guarded secret of how the Stranger Things-inspired display seemingly defies gravity. This was good, and I hope they do this every year. Dave and Aubrey Appel, their Halloween display outside their Plainfield home went viral after they posted a video showing their creation of a famous scene from the most recent Stranger Things season. And for me, it was the creepiest part of the season where Max Mayfield, played by Sadie Sink, levitates in midair.
At the cemetery?
The couple have remained mum on how they managed to make their mannequin version of Max appear to levitate several feet over their doorway. The display was temporarily removed in early October when a neighbor complained about crowds gathering to look at the spooky decor, but it was restored days later when local police gave the Appels the go-ahead. It must have been really great.
I saw
for
this
people to stop and
what
see
it looked like. It would look like a real recreation of that scene from the field.
Yeah,
where from behind you see her just up, and so her back was to the street. It looked really good.
And that was again the creepiest thing lately that something has come out
Stranger
lately.
Things season
really
4 was amazing.
I loved it. That was exciting. It was well written. It was well done, but it was so creepy. It really creeped me out.
Very well done.
So yeah.
All right, I've got the next news. From UPI, a sculpture outside of an Ohio art center was transformed into a scene from E.T., the Extraterrestrial, by unknown pranksters. According to this, officials with the The Fitton Center for Creative Arts in Hamilton said they arrived at the facility this week to find the sculpture First Ride, which depicts a young boy riding a bicycle with the help of his father. It had been redecorated to recreate a scene from the 1982 Spielberg film. The boy was dressed up as Elliot, played by Henry Thomas in the film, and a homemade E.T. in a milk crate was attached to the front handlebars. The father was dressed as in a hazmat suit representing the government agents who pursued the boy and his extraterrestrial friend. Mackenzie Thurley said there are security cameras outside the center, but officials have no plans to unmask the pranksters.
And let's make
That's
it clear.
an example of a prank that you're not damaging anything.
And you're not defacing it and damaging it. And let's be clear. If you and I designed that and we'd added government officials, they wouldn't have been holding walkie-talkies. They would have had shotguns.
Well, you've heard Spielberg went back on that, right?
Oh, did he? Okay, well,
yeah,
good. I'm glad to hear
he
that.
actually said, I regret that when we re-released it and or on DVD, when we digitally drew out these.
Right.
He goes, yeah, that didn't make any sense.
And it didn't, so I'm glad that he came to see some common sense on that. I got the next news. That story reminds me of Dazed and Confused, the movie Dazed and Confused. And in the town, they have statues of their founders of the town that have been there for years. Well, now this is defacing property. They ripped the statues out and took them to the park where they're having their beer keg party and painted all the statues' face to look like Kiss. Like that's defacing property. Don't do that. But the E.T. thing. That was fun. A car wash chain. Here's another Halloween one. A car wash chain announced nearly 60 locations across the United States were transformed into on Halloween night into tunnels of terror across their washes. Now that's kind of cool, like a haunted house car wash.
That's
You're
cool.
kind of in your car; you can't go anywhere. That's kind of cool. Tommy's Express Car Wash said 59 locations in 22 states were providing screams alongside wax treatments as the business is transformed into the tunnel of terror, and they did it on Halloween night, which we had our Halloween Spooktacular show. Some locations began holding Tunnel of Terror events in the evenings that led up to the holiday. Many of the locations are using the events to raise money for charities and community programs. The chain said the Halloween tradition began at a single car wash location and it was so successful that it's become an annual event at locations across the country. So be aware of that. If you live near one of the Tommy's Express car washes next year and they do it again, you might can go through and check out a
that would be cool
Halloween
to do.
Car wash.
I would try that once.
Do that around here. And you get your car clean on top of everything else.
Now, speaking of car wash, don't forget you can head on over to Sonic.
That's right. When we don't get run with the news flashes, I'll remind everybody how they can do that.
All right. So speaking of news flashes, I've got the next news. A Swiss railway company broke a Guinness World Record when a 6,253-foot-long train boasting 100 cars took a trip down the rails.
That's a long train.
Mm-hmm.
That's long.
Rhaetian Railway announced its train, composed of 25 four-part Capricorn rail cars from Swiss manufacturer Stadler, made its way along the UNESCO World Heritage Route from the Albula Tunnel in Preda to the Landswaller Viaduct near Filser. The train made the 15.5-mile journey in about an hour. A Guinness World Records representative was present for the journey and confirmed the train officially broke the record for the longest narrow-gauge passenger train in the world.
And where was that?
I'm not going to go back and repeat all of that.
But it was Swiss.
Yes.
So it was a really long train.
It was very long. Okay, we can't do that now. That's why they give us the warnings about the Swedish chef.
We will do it.
It's very hard, the birdie chicky cookie.
Hey, here's what I hope would happen to me one day. I just want to win the lottery, but listen to this. A Delaware woman on her way home from collecting an $100,000 lottery prize stopped to buy a scratch-off ticket, and on the way home, scratched that one off and won an additional $300,000.
Not a bad day.
That could have been ours. She'd already won. Come on.
Not
We
a
need to be
bad
able to
day
win.
at the office.
The Delaware Lottery said the 70-year-old New York woman visited lottery headquarters October 20th and collected a $100,000 prize from a $100,000 ultimate cash scratch-off ticket she bought at a Speedy Gas in Newark. The woman stopped at the North Dover Tiger Mart in Dover on her way home from the lottery headquarters and bought 3 serious money scratch-off tickets on the way home, and then she won $300,000 more. Now, the woman said most of the money from both of her prizes will go into her retirement fund. I bet it will. That's great. That's one of the best things you can do with lottery winnings. And spend a little bit of it, but put a little bit of it back.
She's 70, so enjoy it.
She's already retired, but she needs just to add to the fund while she's doing it. So,
yeah.
What is the most you've ever won on any of the lottery you've ever played? You ever won anything that's substantial?
I think the largest I ever won on a scratch-off was one of those things where it was part of like a just in your stocking. My wife bought a bunch of scratch off. Was $10.
Okay, so $10.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever felt bad? Here's what I feel bad about giving people lottery tickets to give them. What if I give them one for Christmas and they scratch it off and it's $1 million winner? And I'm thinking, would they give some of it to me because I gave it to them? And would they have to? And would I be wrong in feeling upset or bad if they didn't?
I'd reimburse you for the price of the ticket.
Wow.
No, just kidding.
Then I'd show them what they could do with it.
Remember, we had that white elephant here with the WBHF last year.
Our Christmas thing, yeah.
And I went ahead, and one of the last things I got was the 5 lottery tickets.
Right.
All I won out of that was 1 free ticket, and that 1 free ticket was for nothing. So
okay, so you won something, but you really weren't out anything.
I'm like, I never win anything. I don't bother.
The most that I've won personally from the lottery is my better half and I were on our way on our honeymoon. We took a trip to the Caribbean, and on our way down to the coast, we stopped and just bought a scratch off and won $100. I'm like, just throw that into the vacation honeymoon fund. We'll use that. We'll gamble that or do something with that. Yeah, that's great.
I can now say I know somebody that won triple digits.
Oh well, my dad bought a $20 scratch off ticket once, and it was a $2,000 winner.
That's not bad.
So he won $2 grand. My mom, though, is the big winner of the lottery family in my family. She
had you?
She played. No, that's when she. That's the Zonk prize at Let's Make a Deal. You could trade this for that, and you'll get this instead. Oh, you got him. And I put her through a lot of pain in childbirth, obviously too. My mom did a Fantasy 5 once here in the state of Georgia with the Fantasy 5 thing, and I think that I can't remember how much the total payout was because it had to be split between 5 people that won it. I'm like, so 5 people came up with the same number and won. There's the odds blown out the window right there. It happened. She wound up, after sharing it with 5 other people, she wound up receiving about $200 grand from the Fantasy 5. My mom did. That's the year I got a new car. She's like, I'm going to buy you a new car. I'm like, Mom, you don't have to do that. Okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm like, okay, Mom. Thank you.
Wow.
I appreciate that. So my mom was a...
You're a lucky family.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but that's fine. I'll take it. I'm a lucky family. Speak out here.
Listen, somebody's in the galley. Captain Crunch.
It's true. You can't get away with a crunch.
Because the crunch always gives you away.
And now, the Captain Crunch padlock and key. You snap it together and lock up lots of things, like your lunchbox, a drawer, your dog, and more. The padlock and key. One in specially marked boxes of Captain Crunch cereals. Captain Crunch cereal, a yummy part of a good breakfast.
Hi, junk food.
What do you know, the Campbell kids?
We're going to play football. Want to play?
I'm too pooped.
You don't eat the right things. If you want to feel good, you got to eat good food.
Yeah.
Like delicious Campbell soup.
And Campbell soup tastes like the cat's meow.
Don't say cat. That makes it madder than a junk food dog.
I love my Campbell soup is good food.
We now return to our program.
Hey, we're back. It's BK on the air. I want to give another shout-out and thanks to Southern Cove here in Cartersville. Go check them out here right in downtown Cartersville across from the train depot over there, the west side of the train depot there, for sponsoring our Halloween Spooktacular this past Monday on October the 31st. We do a Halloween Spooktacular every year, and it's a blast, and it's a scary night of fun. And this past Monday was no exception. We had a great time.
A lot of fun. A lot of different discussions, which was really cool.
We try to shake it up and make it different all the time. I want to do another little Halloween leftover cleanup thing here from Courtney Moore at Fox News. Halloween candy preferences identified by state. I'm not going to do every state, but it is an interesting story. Some of the candy brands are more likely than others to be a central part of Halloween. Instacart, a digital grocery delivery and pickup service, said it has determined which candies are the most loved by Americans based on sale data from 2021, and they have no doubt that 2022 will be very similar to this. The e-commerce retail network, which partnered with supermarkets, department stores, and wholesale clubs throughout the country, reports that 658 tons of candy were sold last October, according to internal calculations. This is just, if you still got candy left over and you're still munching on it from this past Halloween Monday. Americans reportedly bought 116 tons of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, and it's the only brand to pass the 100-ton mark. Instacart.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, there's a reason for that, because they're like Scooby snacks.
Because they're the best ever.
M&M's were the next top purchase with 94 tons of milk chocolate. I prefer the peanut ones, but I'll take the plain ones if they don't mind. Heck, I don't mind mixing them together in a bowl. Why not? You still get your chocolate from there. Snickers and Hershey's milk chocolate were tied with 65 tons, followed by Twizzlers with 56 tons, Kit Kats with 49 tons, Twix with 48 tons, Starburst with 37 tons, and Milky Way with 36 tons. Now, 3 out of the top 10 candies Instacart sold in 2021 stood out in the U.S., and each one is made with chocolate. 2 states favored milk chocolate M&Ms, 15 states favored peanut M&Ms, which are my favorite, and 33 states favored Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Now, I highlighted our prospective states. You're from Michigan. Mm-hmm. Walt is actually from here in Georgia, and we're here in Georgia right now, and I'm from Alabama. They all fell under one candy, was the biggest candy for each. Those 3 states that we're all familiar with, there was one candy to report what it was. If you want to take a guess what it was.
Reese's Peanut Butter
Reese's
Cups.
Peanut Butter Cups. There you go. That's
Without
the one.
a doubt.
That's the one.
That is my all-time favorite. I don't do a lot of snacks or candy and treats, but if I'm gonna have that moment of like, okay, weakness, it's been a while, it's a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Right. Now, other states, including Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, North Dakota, Oregon, South Dakota, Texas, sound like out west, they like peanut M&Ms. That's the one that sells out that way
more
in California. So, yeah, I don't think you could go wrong with either one.
No, it's still peanut and chocolate. I mean, think about it. It's still peanut and chocolate. Yeah. It's just one's got a candy shell.
Different form. It's a different form.
Chocolate and peanut butter just goes so well together, doesn't it?
And I didn't know that there's Jack out in the parking lot waving to us inside the window.
I love
here.
that Jeep. Classic.
Yeah, he's got a great classic Jeep. What was the Jeep? I know Jack could probably answer this. What was the Jeep that was popular too? That was half. It was half pickup truck. It had like it had a truck back on it. Was that the Scrambler? Maybe Jack will nod and look at me and say, yes, that was that the Scrambler and the Jeep? I think it was the Scrambler they called that.
I heard somebody actually talk about that. I think it was on the Mark Aram show. There was somebody said, look, Jeeps are Jeeps, trucks are trucks. Joining the two is weird.
And I don't think they make it anymore, so maybe that was the case. By the way, in the theater right now, you can still see Black Adam. That's the latest DC Warner's offering that's out in the theater right now. And someone posed a question on the internet, and I wanted to run it by you. Have you seen photos lately of how Pierce Brosnan's older now? We all get older, but have you seen photos of him lately? Someone posted a photo of him. It was a great photo of him with like a beard and like a long, kind of a bushy mustache, just looking a little kind of menacingly into the camera. And someone put on there, Pierce Brosnan now looks like he could play a Bond villain. And I'm like, wouldn't that be great to be the first movie to cast an ex-Bond actor as the new Bond villain? I'd be totally in for that if it was well written. That'd be great. Talk about a groundbreaking thing. That'd be a good idea.
Pierce Brosnan has played a couple of baddies in some movies that I saw. One with Jackie Chan called The Foreigner.
Okay, I didn't see that. But he was a good villain in it?
Unbelievably
So he could
good.
undoubtedly do it.
Oh, he could very well.
Do it.
It was actually Jackie Chan being serious,
right, and
not doing his typical, let me show you 75 ways I can spin a chair when I'm fighting somebody. It was instead very serious. Basically, his daughter gets killed in an Irish bombing that the IRA wants to reconstitute themselves. And so, Jackie Chan...
Pierce didn't have to mask his,
he didn't have to mask
his accent anymore.
No, but you find out that he is a politician who has realized, bombs don't get us what we want, but if we can infiltrate the government, we can get what we want.
Yeah, a lot of people think
it's really good. It's dark, and Pierce Brosnan, at one point I'm going, he's playing a heavy very well.
If they were to cast either him as a Bond villain in the future, I just think it would be a great marketing idea going, look, there's Bond actor now playing a villain in an official Bond movie, or Timothy Dalton, either one, because they're kind of the only ones left, because Timothy Dalton played a great villain in The Rocketeer. He's proof that he can do that, and he's a lot older looking now, and he could do that. So,
or would you have Hollywood producers going, we don't want to confuse people thinking that Bond turned evil, and that I think we're smart enough as audiences to go, we know that it's the same actor, but he's not playing the same character.
Don't we know what happens when producers get involved in the creative part of
it's like too many cooks in the kitchen. Get out of here.
You know nothing about it. That's like the guy who invented the pots and the pans coming in and telling you you're cooking wrong. Okay, you invented the pan and the way the pan's made. What do you know about what I'm doing cooking? Leave that part to me.
Right.
Don't do that. The producer is telling Leonard Nimoy you need subtitles for the probe in Star Trek 4 because audience won't know what they're talking about when they're talking to the whales.
I think producers just think people are dumb, and I think the problem is producers are dumb.
The first pilot episode of Star Trek was called The Cage with Captain Pike. It was deemed, that's too cerebral for audiences. Commission a new pilot, and they made a new one. Thank goodness for William Shatner. That he got to come back and play the captain, replace the captain actor. But sometimes I think they think too hard about that, and that's another thing. And I can totally what you said about people saying, well, we don't want to cast the next Bond actor as the villain. People might not get it. I'm like, the people that love Bond films will totally get it.
Right, exactly.
They will go and see it and drag people to it, and I think it would be really cool. I'd be all in for that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it'd be a good idea. I think it'd be clever.
I think I got time for this. Let's see if I got time for this. I rewatched a movie again last night.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part, too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship. The bugs send another meteor our way. But this time, we're ready. Planetary defenses are better than ever. Klendathu, source of the bug meteor attacks, orbits a twin star system whose brutal gravitational forces produce an unlimited supply of bug meteorites in the form of this asteroid belt. To ensure the safety of our solar system, Klendathu must be eliminated. We break net now and take you live to Klendathu, where the invasion has begun.
DXQ uplink on 2, 1, you're on.
There's a few news reports there from Starship Troopers, a movie that... the little story behind that movie. It came out... When did Starship Troopers come out? Was it 97?
Late 90s.
Somewhere there. So went to see it, and I think 30 minutes before the movie ended, I walked out. I said, I don't know what this is about. This is crazy, and it's not my bag of candy, so... I'm leaving the theater. Sorry, you guys can watch the rest of it. I can just go do something else. Subsequent viewings of that movie since that time up until now, I've totally fallen in love with Starship Troopers. I know it's just loosely based on the book by Robert Heinlein. I think the title's all they took.
The title and
it.
maybe the fact that there's a race of bugs.
He wrote
it,
yeah.
About it.
But that's about all they did. Kind of like what Roger Corman did with the Edgar Allan Poe titles in the 60s and 70s. It had just a very small connection to the books and stuff and the writings. I have since grown to really love Starship Troopers. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the direct-to-video sequels they did. I mean, they were kind of a cheaper direct-to-video sequels, and I only saw one of them. But that's a great movie, and I think that you actually enjoy Starship Troopers as well.
Yeah.
It was on last night. And I happened to have it. It was streaming, and I'm like, hey, this is on something there's no commercial breaks. Let's turn up the surround speakers and just really listen to it. I don't think it was in 4K, but it was in HD, and it was really, really well done. And when I was watching it, I kind of looked over at Mrs. BK, and I said, the effects and everything in this movie still hold up. There's not anything in this movie that looks cheap and bad. It still looks like a very big action-adventure sci-fi movie, which is exactly what it is from the director of RoboCop and Total Recall. And I still love it. And the music score is so heroic and sounds fantastic. It goes to it, makes it even more exciting.
Such a fun movie. I didn't quote love it the first time I saw it. Right. I liked it, but I have grown to love it because I get the propaganda elements, the really the satire that's underneath it. It's not satire funny. I mean, I guess you could laugh at the promotional things.
Right.
But
a lot of that in RoboCop,
it really is a commentary on military culture and rallying people, whether it's for a good cause or not.
Fight the enemy, yeah. And people, we did a talk a few years ago here locally at the Booth Western Art Museum for the Etowah History Museum on how comic books were involved in the propaganda of World War II back in the day. Because in World War II, you had covers of Batman, Superman, and Captain America fighting Hitler and the Japanese on the front and using comics to do that.
Right.
And everybody's like, well, it's terrible. Propaganda's terrible. Yes, in a way it is terrible, but it's another way to, because if your people aren't behind you in what you're doing. It's that people are like, well, no one's behind us on doing this. We got to rally them to fight for whatever is going on. Sometimes it's a weird thing that's a necessary evil, I guess they can call it. But yeah, there's a lot of that in Starship Troopers, and I thought it's just a great film. Every time I watch it now, I just like it even more, and I see different things. I'm like, I didn't notice that before. And the cast, you got Clancy Brown in it as the drill sergeant. You got the guy from, I can't believe, the one guy who played in Breaking Bad that was the cop friend to the girl that or the star of the show was married to, that found out he was the meth dealer. He's in it. I noticed he was in it. I can't recall his name. But Gary Busey's brother is in it, who looks just like him. I think it's his brother who looks just like him and sounds like him. And Denise Richards is in it. She's not got the best acting ability in the world, but she is in it. Talk about James Bond. She was one of the worst people in a Bond film. Female actresses I've ever seen in a Bond film. Which one was she in? I can't remember. Did it Die Another Day? I can't remember.
Yes.
Speaking on there, we'll be back.
Your basic arachnid warrior isn't too smart, but you can blow off a limb. It's still 86% combat effective. Here's a tip. Aim for the nerve stem and put it down for good.
Would you like to know more?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Yeah. Roaches are tough. We steal food. Fleas are tougher. We bite people. Steal food. Bite.
The toughest thing about roaches and fleas is getting rid of them.
Tougher. Toughest.
But now there's Raid Roach and Flea Killer, specially formulated to kill roaches and fleas dead.
Raid's tough stuff. Raid.
Raid Roach and Flea Killer kills roaches and fleas dead.
Yeah.
Introducing the amazing record vacuum by Ronco, the new stereo accessory that protects all your records. Simply insert your record into the record vacuum, turn it on, and your record rotates automatically, sweeping and vacuuming your records instantly. Loosening deep damaging microdust particles, 33 1/3, 45, 78. Any size fit.
Available at Walgreen, Woolworth Wilco, Montgomery Ward, Osco, Turnstile, Venture, Goldblatts.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
Big stack of stuff here. Let's do a little on this day in history. November 5th. Today is November 5th.
Remember. 5th of November.
I knew you were going to say that.
I got to watch that movie tonight.
1895 on this day in history. The first U.S. patent granted for an auto gasoline-driven car by George B. Selden was given out on this day. They didn't even have a patent for a gasoline-driven vehicle for that. 1935, on this day in history, Parker Brothers, the game company, launches something. You want to guess what it is? 1935. What did Parker Brothers launch?
Monopoly.
You're right. The game that has caused more family and friend arguments and fights and overturned tables in history.
Banned in our house.
Hey, I'll tell you, I bet you Monopoly has caused more fights than poker, if I had to guess. Because not a lot of families play poker, but they'll play Monopoly, though, unless you have that certain gambling family. Men at Work had the #1 song 40 years ago on the Billboard chart in 1982. Who Can It Be Now? I think that's probably my favorite Men at Work song. The other one, Come From a Land Down Under, that one was, I think, was their biggest hit. But I thought Who Can It Be Now was the better song, and I really liked that.
Did they get in trouble for that one?
Which one?
Men at Work for the Land Down Under because they stole the melody from another song.
Did they?
I thought they got sued for a
or was it
lot of money.
The other song called Johnny Be Good?
No, that's
Johnny Be Good or whatever.
It was their big
hit. I never heard that. Really, I have to look that up.
Yeah,
that's funny. You may have come up with a fact that I don't know, which there's a lot of them. The #1 song.
Based on that being said, maybe I am wrong.
Oh, I might have a quiz for you later today if we got time. And this is going to be an interesting quiz. The quiz I pulled up is, out of these stars that I list, it's a yes or no question. Do they have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame or not?
Oh.
And what made me look that up was there's a mini Walk of Fame at Universal in Orlando that you get to see, like a little reproduction of it in front of Mel's Diner. But some have stars that you think would, and some don't have one. So it's kind of a cool thing, because when I took it, I missed half of them because and I've been there and saw them all, but I didn't remember all of them. But it's an interesting quiz. If we get to it, that's good. We'll do it today or later if we miss it. 1988, the #1 song on this day. The Beach Boys had the #1 song in 1988.
Kokomo.
Kokomo. Probably an overplayed.
Cocktail.
Don't like. It's one of the overplayed sick of hearing it Beach Boys songs. And plus, Brian Wilson had nothing to do with it.
But
so.
it was a hit for so long. I asked my wife because we were driving down somewhere and that song came on. We hadn't heard it for a long time.
Yeah.
I said, Suze, do you think like those different islands mentioned at the beginning, do you think when that movie was such a big hit that they all saw like a rise in tourism? Because people are like, I want to go to these places.
I want to go to Aruba and Jamaica.
Yeah.
Bahamas.
Come on, I want to take you to Baru.
Well, it could have. It could. We don't know it.
Come on, pretty mama.
We don't know 100% that it happened, but we do know that the Bond movie Spectre caused Mexico City to have a Day of the Dead, kind of like in the movie Spectre. Because they celebrate it, but they didn't celebrate it in that way with a parade.
Curious. I've got the ability, if I just choose to, could I go look up the tourism numbers? Did it go up significantly after that song hit?
My knee-jerk reaction said it had to have a little bit. Come on,
right?
Certain pop things make things go up.
I think so.
When you mention something, some songs get back on the charts because they're in something.
That's true too.
And I was walking around in the grocery store the other day, and I heard what's the song by Kate Bush that she likes in Stranger Things? You know the song I'm talking about that brought her back from the upside down
running up
thing?
that hill.
I heard it playing in.
Or I think the name of the song is like "I Make a Deal with God."
Right. I heard it playing in the grocery store, and I don't know the name of the song, but I know it's by her. But I only know it because I'd never heard the song before, and I heard it playing, and now it makes me think of that Stranger Things connection. Well, when I hear the song, I heard it just playing in there, and I'm like, this doesn't sound like a happy song. It sounds. The lyrics may be happy, but it's her song that brings her back. The song I would like to bring me back that you'd have to put in headphones for me would be something like, I don't know, Mr. Blue Sky by ELO or something like that, which has that significance to me of being a happy, great song to pull me back. But that song just doesn't sound happy. I guess it doesn't matter to some people.
No, to me, it's a little annoying, and so if that's the case, that would keep me away because, like, would you just stop?
But that would keep you focused on wanting it to stop. Like, It's a Small World After All. If they played that over and over again, I'm like, please stop that song. Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Stop. You played it enough to never play it again, ever. It's already burned into everybody's mind. On this day in history, 2018, NASA's Voyager 2 probe leaves the solar system, becoming the second human-made object to reach interstellar space. Let's just hope some alien doesn't take it over and send it back with a mission, with a cloud. We don't want that to happen. And in 2021, Marvel's, much to everyone's either joy or trepidation, The Eternals premiered on this day in 2021. One of Marvel, in my opinion's missteps. High hopes for that movie. Big comic book, big lofty comic book, full of godlike ideas, but I don't know, it just didn't translate to the screen very well, in my opinion. They're doing a sequel to it, though, already in pre-production, I understand. Birthdays today include Mrs. Howell, my wife. It's her birthday today. Natalie Schaefer from Gilligan's Island. I think she did a voice in Anastasia. She died in 1991. Roy Rogers' birthday today, American cowboy actor and singer. Happy Trails and the Roy Rogers Show on television. Oh, my dad was a big fan of that stuff. Lash LaRue and Hopalong Cassidy. Of course, he was a kid in the 40s. He started watching that stuff and loved it.
Did you know that I had a chance to interview his son just a couple of weeks ago?
You did, and I heard that on Bartow's Morning News.
Dusty Rogers, but it's Roy Rogers Jr. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Roy died in 1998. I thought he died earlier than that. Today is a English rock pop singer, sometimes known as Herman with Herman and Herman's Hermits. Something tells me I'm into something good. Now, every time I hear that song, I think of The Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen walking down the road and them having their little love scene, which is great. Peter Noon. It's his birthday today. That's who we're talking about. Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter was another song that he did. And you can't say that. You can't say any of the songs without using the accent because their accents were so thick when they were singing. They're like, English people don't use their accents when they sing. It disappears. Not with them.
No,
they
that
sing
song
with
was
their accents.
Pretty thick.
Today is Robert Patrick, American actor's birthday. You remember Robert Patrick?
Yeah, he played a T-1000.
He was T-1000 and T2 Judgment Day, and he was in Copland.
Copland.
He was great in Copland, by the way. And I totally did not know this. You know how you joke sometime where you're this many years old when you've learned something on the day right now you learned it? He's from Marietta, Georgia. He's from our neck of the woods, just south of here. I had no idea Robert Patrick is a Georgian. That's amazing.
Okay,
and you learned it.
I am this many years old when I've learned that Robert Patrick came from Marietta.
Wow, an actress's birthday today. Tilda Swinton's birthday today. English actress, Chronicles of Narnia, Doctor Strange. She played the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, who had a very interesting yet sad death scene. She suspended, just a few seconds before she died just to sit and contemplate a second of time, slowed down incredibly slow, just to talk to Stephen before she let go, and I thought that was interesting to be able to do that.
She's one of those people that has
actress.
a quirky look to her, but she's really good.
Talented, yeah.
Very talented.
Femke Jensen, Dutch model and actress. Her birthday today. She was a Bond lady. She was also in The Blacklist, Redemption, Deep Rising, the aforementioned GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan, and the X-Men. She played Phoenix.
Eventually turns into Jean Grey.
And today is another actor. This is actor's birthday day today. Sam Rockwell's birthday today from Galaxy Quest,
Another
Iron Man 2, and Moon. You see Moon with him? Where he's a solitary guy on the moon on a space station. Very interesting, Kubrick-like movie. It's very interesting. We'll have what National Day it is and other stuff when we come back. It's BK on the air.
Hi, you got a bomb in here?
Shoot no, Sergeant. Just telling folks about Post Toasties, the toasted cornflakes. Post Toasties. Get it? Toasting makes cornflakes taste better. Makes them crisper. Shazam!
Post cereals make breakfast a little bit better.
If you think beautiful skin is only something you're born with, get wind of Sea Breeze.
Beautiful skin can be a breeze with Sea Breeze.
The antiseptic invigorates.
Beautiful skin can be a breeze with Sea Breeze.
Exhilarates. Cleans deep.
Beautiful skin can be a breeze.
Beautiful. With Sea Breeze Skincare.
Dunkin' Donuts, you can't find in a grocery store. Dunkin' Donuts, you can't find in a bakery. Dunkin' Donuts, they're not for sale in a restaurant. You have to get them at Dunkin' Donuts. It's worth the trip.
Little Dunkin' Donuts.
What's that?
What?
There's
Donuts,
no Dunkin' Donuts anymore.
Dunkin'
It's
Donuts.
just Dunkin'.
The reason why I say that is today, November the 5th, National Donut Day is today. And you know what? All the treats we have in our break room back there that people bring us, the tons of treats for the radio station, there's not any donuts back there, which I'm not complaining. I mean, there's a lot back there to eat, but donuts.
There's
wow.
a great social experiment I'm doing when we get those little treats delivered.
Yeah.
Usually it's across a wide spectrum between cakes and candies and donuts.
Oh, yeah.
I know what goes first, and it's the donuts all the
So
time.
maybe there were donuts back there.
There's always at least 2 or 3 boxes of donuts.
And somebody wouldn't sit there and go, well, you know, the guys on Saturday, we might have to leave them a couple or 3. You know, no, we're the redheaded stepchildren here at the station. We're the WKRP folks. We're the Dr. Johnny Fevers of the station because we're last tier on everything.
We'll have like the lemon bars.
Yeah, and they're out of date. On top of that, yeah, they're still like out of date. Or
bagels.
something.
Like who brought the bagels with the treat basket? Don't get me wrong. I have eaten the bagels. I like bagels.
We get the poppy seed broccoli encrusted cakes that have I don't know what broccoli's doing in there, but that's the one we get left behind. Are those? Hey, they leave us the healthy ones. They're worried about our health.
It's like your candy in the bag.
Yeah,
right?
that's fine.
You go eat the good candy first.
That's right. And we're the younger brothers. They don't ever think about the younger brothers. Well, the more traditional spelling of donut, however, both donut and donut, D-O-N-U-T or D-O-U-H-N-U-T. They're pervasive in American English, and people go, how do you spell it? And now it's kind of become standard. Either way is accepted, right. I guess. One way is the more quirky way, D-O-N-U-T. Okay, that's the short way. But I guess the way I've always spelled it, as far as when I was writing it out, I would always write it out D-O-U-H-N-U-T.
You don't put a G? D-O-U-G-H?
I'm sorry, D-O-U-G-H, yeah. N-U-T. See, I can't even read it right.
So that's how I've always spelled it, because it's dough. It's a donut.
Right. But donut, D-O-N-U-T, that's kind of the quirky, nickname spelling way of doing it. In 1919, I didn't know this, the Square Donut Company of America was founded. Square Donuts offer an easier-to-package product if they're in a square shape. And I didn't know that. And I tried to look up the Square Donut Company and where it was in 1919. It's the original company, I guess, is no longer there. But there's still a couple of companies, maybe 2 or 3 that I found in America that still offer a square donut.
Because you're so worried about them rolling out of the box.
Or not fitting in there right, wasting space. I don't know what their excuse is for having a way to go, that's better if we package them this way.
It's clever, but I don't know that it really...
Well, we had someone pass away on the 25th. I didn't get to it last week because I put it on Facebook and everything, but I wanted to point it out here from the MeTV website. MeTV is a great website. If you have MeTV, it's a great place to go for quizzes and stories about classic television and see their schedule, lineup, and everything, and find out where you can actually watch MeTV because it's one of several classic streaming channels that show old classic television shows, like the old days. I just wish they would squeeze in some classic commercials, too. I don't think they ever do that. But what is the one channel that used to do that? TV Land used to do that. TV Land has become, I don't know if they even show old TV shows on TV Land. Old on TV Land now is from 1990. I'm like, okay, that's old to some kids, okay, but not to me. So MeTV kind of filled that. You know how MTV turned into something that we didn't much watch anymore, but VH1 came along and filled that gap that MTV used to be, and now VH1 kind of doesn't really do it anymore either. So how things morph out of what they used to be. The Sci-Fi Channel used to be a great show to watch sci-fi shows. They had a few newer things, but they would show old stuff like Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, the Star Trek series, Twilight Zone, name the show. Now they hardly do that anymore. I'm like, you people get away from what you originally were, and then these new channels come along to kind of fill the gap. Well, someone from our childhood passed away. You may remember the name. Rest in peace to Jules Bass, one half of the iconic Rankin Bass team that brought us Rudolph, Frosty, and Mad Monster Party with Boris Karloff, and much more. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Bass passed away on Tuesday, October 25th at the age of 87. In 1960, Bass began working with art director Arthur Rankin Jr. for a new film production company called Videocraft International. 4 years after inception, the pair found major successes with what was considered classic stop-motion holiday movies called, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which always makes my list as favorite Christmas movies to watch. Even though it was a TV film, it still makes the list. It was great. The TV movie was based on the Gene Autry song from 1949. I keep forgetting how old that song is. The Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is so old. Even my dad remembers it when he was younger. Now, through Rudolph had major success. It wasn't the only holiday production Bass became known for. Also in the stop-motion category was the 1968 movie The Little Drummer Boy. I remember that one, too. In 1969, the Frosty the Snowman holiday special debuted and has since graced millions of television screens. That's animated, though. That's not stop-motion. This special can still be seen several times a year, even to this day. His successful pieces surrounding the holidays didn't stop at Frosty. Bass also produced the 1970 TV movie Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the 1971 Easter movie Here Comes Peter Cottontail, and the 1974 short 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and the TV movie The Year Without Santa Claus in 1974. Now, the 1967 Halloween film Mad Monster Party with Boris Karloff and Phyllis Diller stood in the shadow of other holiday Rankin Bass productions for years, but has since gained a cult following since its broadcast premiere. Now, Bass was the executive producer of the 1966 King Kong TV series. Believe it or not, King Kong did an animated show in the 60s. He's also credited with producing 17 episodes of the Jackson 5 cartoon, with all the Jackson 5 doing their voices from 1971 to 1972. The late 70s through the 80s, Bass produced several TV movies such as Frosty's Winter Wonderland, Rudolph's Shiny New Year, and Jack Frost and Pinocchio's Christmas, and several others. The later ones, it may have been because I was older, but I tried to watch them, and they, again, didn't have the charm of the older ones because, hey, the older ones were classic, so it was kind of hard to lock that in.
The Year Without a Santa Claus that had the Heat Miser and the Cold Miser?
I think that was the one that had those two in it.
Love those two guys. They had the same music, but they had their own spin to the lyrics.
That's well written. I love that.
And then Mother Nature got pulled them by the ears, get in here, boys.
Isn't that the way it has to?
Don't mess with Mother Nature.
That's right. More recently, Bass was a consulting producer for several episodes of Thundercats, if you remember that cartoon, from 2011 to 2012. As recently as 2020, he was listed as a consulting producer for the TV series Thundercats Roar. That's according to IMDb.com. The legacy of Jules Bass will certainly live on every time one of the several holiday classics grace our TV sets once more. So, yeah, we've lost another creative team. Those guys, a lot of creative teams had a lot of behind the scenes, produced a lot of good stuff. One guy that produced a lot of great animation and shows was Ruby Spears. He made a lot of TV shows in the 80s, cartoons and animated shows for kids. He did a 1987 Superman cartoon which used the John Williams theme and was aired on, I think it was a CBS cartoon on Saturday mornings. Ruby Spears did. You had Sid and Marty Krofft who still, go to conventions and talk to people and appear with Sid Marty Krofft actors and actresses like from Land of the Lost and Electra Woman and Dinah Girl. Deidre Hall, who played Electra Woman, who went on to be a soap opera actress, still goes to the conventions, and she says the most requests she gets for autographs are not from her I think it's Days of Our Lives she was on or something like that, which is she did most of her work on. She gets it. She says, it's Electra Woman pictures that I get requests for signatures. Because sci-fi fans that love retro and nostalgia stuff are devoted as heck when it comes to their entertainment. They'll follow your career. Even if you're not even acting anymore, they still want to meet you and talk to you like some of these people learn. Yeah. They'll go to the convention and some of them are floored by it. I can't believe you want to talk to me after all these years. I just did a little show back in the 70s, and you're still a fan, really? I'm like, yes, of course they are. Incredibly devoted. To people, when you're a kid, things imprint on you and and it's a big deal to you.
That reminds me of the scene. Have you seen that Chip and Dale movie that was on Disney Plus?
No, you told me about it.
I was going to look it up. I forgot the full name.
It has a subtitle to it. It's Chip and Dale
but
something.
There was that moment where all the B actors from all the cartoons are at conventions.
Right.
And, Chip decided to have the 3D done because he's like...
yeah, that's right. He gets all...
He doesn't want to look classic 2D cartoon. He wants to look 3D. It's very funny. It's such a great
falls
commentary.
Within that thing. Did you ever see The Wrestler with who's the guy that played the villain in Iron Man 3?
I know who you're talking about.
Why can't I think of his name? And why can we not think of names at the same time? That's what scares me. Mickey Rourke.
Yes, Mickey Rourke. Thank you.
He played in a movie called The Wrestler, and I'd seen trailers for it, and I'm like, I don't want to watch a movie with him. And he's kind of weirded out now, and it's about wrestling, and I don't really care about that. And I watched it. And it was a fantastic movie. It was all about that. He was a wrestler that had seen his heyday. He still went to wrestling conventions and signs autographs, and you see how kind of mundane it is going through the motions and stuff, and his life is falling apart, and he's depressed. And it's actually a very well done movie. I always tell people, watch The Wrestler. It's such a good movie; it'll stick with you like that. About a forgotten celebrity of old days.
He was nominated for an Academy Award for that, I thought. Yeah,
well, I want to give it to him because it is great. It is a fantastic job by him.
It's Chip and Dale, Rescue Rangers.
Rescue Rangers, because you talked about it a few months ago when you brought it up and you saw it.
Well, because someone said if you liked Who Framed Roger Rabbit, this is sort of like that next iteration with the cartoon world interacting with the real world. It's awesome. It is. It was so much fun to watch that movie.
It's not Disney. Is it Disney?
It's on Disney Plus.
If it's Disney, I might get Mrs. BK to watch it. I'm like, but it's a Disney film.
She would.
It's Disney.
Why wouldn't she?
I don't know. I haven't approached it yet.
Similar to Roger Rabbit, Disney must have made a couple of under the table. We want to license some of this stuff for just a moment.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of other cartoon characters that show up in this.
Could you imagine them sitting around the table planning with Robert Zemeckis, Roger Rabbit, thinking, okay, we're going to have Bugs Bunny in this. We're going to use
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse. We're going to have some of these other characters in the background, Porky Pig, some of the other things. Well, I guess we need to contact a lot of people.
Do you know the only way they got that cooperation was because Spielberg was producing, and everyone was like, okay, we trust him.
We lent a little bit of
his gravitas. He was the executive producer of it.
That's great. Well,
I just rewatched Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 weeks ago.
Seen it in a long time.
It still holds up very well with the whole practical, the drawing of the cartoons on top.
I certainly know Starship Troopers does. That's for sure. It's BK on there. We'll be back.
Jeepers, another stupid newsreel. I hate the news.
We'll return after these messages.
We got the makings of a Star-Bar.
Star-Bar.
It's soft and peanut buttery, crunchy bits of peanuts through and through, so smooth and chewy caramel, and creamy chocolate too.
We make Star-Bar soft and peanut buttery, but crunchy with peanuts. We make it chewy with caramel, but creamy with milk chocolate.
We've got the makings of a Star-Bar. We've got the makings of a Star.
New from Peter Paul.
I'm freezing. Superman!
Uh-oh, sounds like Lisa and Scott are trapped in the icy cave of that frosty-faced villain, Captain Cold. This is a job for Superman.
My fast freeze zapper will freeze Superman forever.
No way, Captain. Here, kids, my new Superman Hot Cocoa Mix is the super tasting way to warm up.
It's really sweet. And chocolatey.
And see, Captain Cold can't take this warm reception. New Superman Hot Cocoa, the super tasting way to warm up.
I want to talk about this from the Me TV at metv.com. You ever wonder why every fictional character seemed to have the phone number 555 something in entertainment? The first three numbers were 555. If there's something strange in your neighborhood, who are you going to call? We all know from Ray Parker Jr.'s Ghostbusters theme song. The answer is the Ghostbusters. In the 1984 movie, we even see a phone number for the fictional paranormal exterminators. The Ghostbusters hotline pops up on television screen during the Rise to Fame montage in the middle of the film. Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve your supernatural elimination needs. Ray, Dan Aykroyd, explains, you only have to dial 555-2368. Now, some astute TV lovers of the audience probably recognize the number from 1974 to 1980. That was Jim Rockford's phone number on the Rockford Files. In the opening credits of the Rockford Files, the camera pans across the cluttered desk of an unconventional detective. We hear his phone ring and his messages play on the title sequence. The camera pushes back into the black phone, and we see the number. 311 is the area code, 555-2368. But Rockford was not the only one to use those 10 digits, not by a long shot. Oh, if you wanted to reach the Bionic Woman, you could just reach Jamie Summers in her Coach house residence at, you guessed it, area code 311-555-2368. A few years earlier, the same phone number turned up on the Mod Squad in the 1971 episode And the Children Shall Bleed Them. In the Mannix episode Memory Zero, our hero uses a payphone with the same number as seen in the upper left top of the screen. Even before the era of 7-digit phone numbers, in the age of telephone exchange names like PEBU, that means Pennsylvania, and Butterfield, the same number turns up on television. It's a Night Call, a fifth episode of The Twilight Zone from 1964, centers around an elderly woman who keeps receiving disturbing phone calls. It's a pretty weird episode, too. Take a good look at her phone. When you see that episode, you can see it in the image. When you look, if you can pause it and look at it in the image on the screen, the number printed on the dial is Klondike 52368. That's KL 52368. The KL that you pressed meant 55. So the big question you're probably asking is why? This convenient fake number did not originate in Hollywood, rather within the phone industry itself. For years, industry giants like Bell Systems and Western Electric were using KL 52368 and 555-2368 as dummy numbers. If you saw a telephone for sale at some point in the mid-century, it's likely had the number printed on it when you saw a number because they wanted it to look like it was a real number phone with a phone on it. It often popped up in advertising, too, as the top of the page is a Western Electric print ad. If you look at, there's a Western Electric print ad from Life magazine in 1961. You can see it on the cover of that Life magazine. You can also see it on a 1962 Pacific telephone brochure promoting the switch over from manual switching to direct dialing. As for 2368, the number, that stood for CNT, Cent, as in Central, CENTRAL, Central. Going further back, you can find Bell using EX, exchange, Central, CETRAL, Central, in its advertisements. Are you still with me? Just hang on. It's all explainable. During the shift to 7-digit numbers in the late 60s, telephone companies encouraged TV producers and filmmakers to begin using the 555 exchange. There have been others besides 2638 as the next numbers up in sequence. Homer Simpson promotes his Mr. Plow service with the number KL53226 in a classic episode of The Simpsons. Screech sold spaghetti sauce over the television on Saved by the Bell on that show via 555 MMMM. Kramer's number on Seinfeld was 555 FILK. Just one number away from movie phones, 555 FILM, back when you would call movie phone. Now, as for reaching Jim Rockford today from the Rockford Files, don't try it. That 311 now gets you a non-emergency services now when you call that. So.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
there you go. A little history of the 555 number, and even further, the 555-2368 number as a whole. I knew that they'd use 555 on television because as a kid, I'm like, oh, they must use that because it's not anybody's number.
Right.
Well, they're probably right about the 555 part, but the other part, they actually used a complete telephone number over and over again. So a little history with BK on the hair here from stuff that we like to talk about. So I'll remind you.
I didn't realize how many shows used the exact same last 4 digits.
That was news to me, too,
cool.
because I didn't notice that. If they were doing it, I didn't register it as a kid. I probably saw it, but I didn't think the other numbers are being used as well. So there's another thing that happened in the news. This could have just as easily have been in the news flashes, but I wanted to try to we're ticking up toward the other half of the show here, and I want to squeeze some of these in. From Coweta County in our own backyard, from Fox 5 Atlanta. Alan, have you ever had, think back to the time when you were single and dating. Can you think that far back for me, or is it too hard?
No, I can't
Can you
remember.
get back into the dustbins of your mind where the dust and the
It's
cobwebs are?
It's not a happy place, nor accomplished.
Any happy at all? Probably some good dates here and there. Did you ever have a date from hell? Ever? Or maybe more than one? That you can recall?
I wouldn't say from hell, but I do know one specific one.
Maybe
I was
from
like,
purgatory?
That was the strangest.
Strange. It was a strange day.
And then before ghosting became a thing, got ghosted.
Oh, really?
Like,
she did or you did?
She did.
Oh, okay.
But went like bananas crazy. Like I got my red flag warnings, and I'm glad.
And we became wiser and better judge of character the older we got.
Yeah, well, it took a
I think some people got better judge of character when I was concerned and never called me back, so that might have happened too. From Coweta County, Georgia, and Fox 5. Things did not go well for a Coweta County man who deputies say met a woman online. It was the couple's first date, but deputies say she apparently had other plans, including stealing his pickup truck and a high-speed chase with police. Oops. This is truly a date. Remember you just watched From Hell with Johnny Depp? This is a date from hell. Coweta County deputies say this might be the definition of a date from hell. Deputies say the victim met Jennifer Lee Gray on a dating app. The couple started their evening at his Coweta County home. On their first date, it did not go as planned. Coweta deputies responded to the man's 911 call to report his stolen pickup and say they spotted it with Gray behind the wheel. They say she refused to pull over and then accelerated to over 100 miles an hour. Deputies tried the pit maneuver, and when you see the video, you can actually look it up on Fox 5's website. The truck did spin out, but then they say Gray managed to get the pickup back under control. Now, she would not in round 2 coming up. Dating can be expensive if it's just another dinner and a movie. In this case, it was. Well, the price of gas is over 100 miles an hour. The body damage from not one but 2 pit maneuvers. It's mounting up here. The truck hit the ditch hard twice, and the tires were also flattened by stop sticks. So this date ended up being an expensive one for the guy. The 37-year-old Gray was charged with theft by taking and fleeing from police, and she was booked in the Coweta County Jail.
Ugh.
I've never had a date that bad.
Nope.
But I've had a few that were not that great. And I don't know if I wouldn't use the HE double hockey sticks word ever to even explain or describe my worst date, but it wouldn't be that bad. Yeah,
I can't think of anything that matches that kind of intensity.
I did have a guy that my dad knew take a car that we were trying to sell, a used car, on a test drive and was gone for 3 days in it. And we thought he'd just stolen it. I'm like, well, the car's gone. Where is it? This guy's gone. Mm-hmm. And then eventually we were driving down the street once and went back by the house that he was renting a room from. That could have been a red flag right there, as he didn't even have a home. But my dad knew him, and we drove by and we saw the car. We're like, there's my car right there. There's like a 78 model Mercury Zephyr 4-door car that I had, and it's like, there's the car, pull up, and it's there, and he's not there. Person that he rents the room from was there, and it's like, nah, he's gone. I'm like, look, keys are in the car. That's my car. Okay, we're taking it back. So just by happenstance, we saw the car was back. I guess he is done with it.
That's crazy.
And he just left it there. But he was supposed to take that car for a 30-minute drive, keep it, check it out. You want it, bring it back,
Makes
blah, blah,
you
blah.
wonder, what's the story that goes with it?
3 days. I don't even want to know what he did. Did he need it to do something? And I was never contacted that my car was involved in any type of clandestine thing.
Was he wanting to really buy the car, got back to the place he was renting, was going to
idea.
And then the mafia was there saying, we found you, and just took him.
You're writing a movie about it.
And next thing, he's gone, the car's just sitting there, nobody knows what happened to him. Sitting in an oil drum somewhere at the bottom of a lake.
Or we could go the other route and say he was taken over by, he was possessed by something or aliens. Something like that. So that would be kind of cool, right? Don't you think so? Or aliens landed and took him away. He goes, oh, well, I'm getting on the ship for Close Encounters, Third Kind. I'll just leave the car. Can't take the car with me, so they'll find it.
You don't know?
They'll drive by there. Speaking on the air, we're going to take a break, our final break of the show, and then we'll be back.
And now, these messages.
Steak and Ale welcomes you back to the Old Country Inn.
Come sup with us at Steak and Ale, where hearty dining abounds.
This takes me back to the old days, a place to relax and enjoy a good hearty meal, like this Kensington Club.
The Kensington Club is a sirloin steak, marinated to taste. Lovingly grilled for just the right time, it even compares with our ribs in their prime.
Come join us. It'll be like old times.
Come sup with us at Steak and Ale.
Let's tell Mom it was Billy's mistake.
You're making the mistake.
Flint!
Anyone can have an accident, but lying makes it worse.
But Mom will be upset.
She'll be even more upset if you lie. And how would you feel if Billy got punished? Face up to what you've done. Don't take the easy way out.
We'll tell her we did it.
Remember, it's better to tell the truth.
And that's no lie. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Oh, that's not right.
Yes, it's BK on the air here, having a great time every Saturday. I can't wait to get up here and turn this microphone and do this radio show and have a great time with this fellow that I'm staring at across the way here with his Georgia Bulldog shirt on. I can even look at that and not get sick. I'm totally fine.
Well, you married into a Bulldog lover. You're kind of, you've been desensitized.
Guy, so they can do that. We talked earlier about how cool it would be to have Pierce Brosnan. Somebody come up on Twitter or something and said, hey, look at this picture of Pierce Brosnan. The way he looks now, he could totally be a Bond villain in a Bond movie. And I think the idea of casting an ex-Bond actor in a Bond film as a villain would be a stroke of genius. I think that was great. The mere PR of it alone would surround it. Well, Variety caught up with Pierce because, you know, he plays Dr. Fate in the new movie Black Adam, which is a DC Warner Brothers movie, latest superhero movie that's out. Variety magazine caught up with him and asked him some questions about being Dr. Fate.
Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange, and my sons, who are comic book aficionados, would say, Dad, Doctor Strange. Well, we all know who Doctor Strange is, and he is epically brilliant, Benedict. But then you have the bookend to that, and it's Dr. Fate. And Dr. Fate is much loved, one of the senior members of the Sorcerer's World. John McCallette-Serra is the director, Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. The cast, the text, the script works on many different levels, and I think it covers them in a very subtle way and sometimes on the nose, culturally, politically, socially, and more importantly, in a grandiose, epic, entertaining way.
Did your kids give you any tips, any comic book knowledge that they passed down to you?
No, we saw it. Keely and I saw it with our sons there week before last, and Dad got a thumbs up, a big thumbs up.
So if you get a thumbs up from your kids from a comic book character you're playing, I guess that's a. I hear he's one of the best things about the film is his portrayal of Dr. Fate. Mm. And I'll probably find out when I watch Black Adam, which will probably be streaming on HBO Max.
In a couple
when
of
it comes
weeks,
out streaming, I'll just watch it.
In the theater.
And I feel bad because I'm such a comic book fan, and everybody loves it. And you know, Marvel's faltered here lately, but they're still the strongest storytelling cinematic universe of superheroes out there. DC has faltered quite a bit, and I've had some movies that I've liked that they did. But it makes me mad that I don't enjoy the DC Warner Brothers productions as much because I'm a comic book fan of both sides. I'm a big fan. I love Superman and Batman and The Flash and Hawkman and Green Lantern and all those guys from DC as well because they're just as entertaining heroes. They just have to be produced by people that kind of – now some would argue, oh, I've loved all the DC movies. Well, okay, that's fine if you like them. But it's just if you look at them in their entirety on each side – the DC Warner stuff just hasn't done as well critically and with me, and you agree with it as well.
Yeah.
It's just something's missing there.
The two kind of standalone in that world but not connected are the two best options is the Joker and the Batman.
Well, yeah, and I would argue that the first Wonder Woman film was great.
Yeah,
and
it was good.
I really loved.
It was definitely the best thing that had come out at that point.
And I loved Shazam when it came out. I also liked Aquaman. Were they as good as the Marvel movies?
I couldn't
No,
even bring
they
myself
weren't.
to watch Aquaman.
But Aquaman was great. Aquaman, again, it grossed over $1 billion. You know, and I haven't even heard about a sequel to that. So I don't know what they're doing, if they're ignoring what was a success and wasn't. I don't know. And now I hear they're going to have new creative folks. They're going to be at the helm with James Gunn, and now is Steven Spielberg talking to him about something? I don't know what that means. I have no idea. It could be for a completely different related thing. Warner Brothers does more than superhero films. They could be talking to Spielberg about something else. But the fact that the DC studio guy was in on the meeting and Christopher Nolan was there, who knows? Spielberg may be directing something that Nolan is going to produce. I don't know what's going on. We know Spielberg will work with other people because it was just on last night. Along with Starship Troopers, I happened to catch the last half of Super 8, a movie that was produced by Spielberg but directed by J.J. Abrams, and it was like a team effort by them. And I enjoyed Super 8. I thought it was actually a pretty good little movie. It was better than some of the other stuff that I'd seen that had come out. You know, the whole classic, it's a monster, the kids understand the monster.
I liked it until I thought it ended weekly.
It was a weak ending, and I don't know if that was just the thing about it. It was M. Night Shyamalan syndrome, the weak ending. It's it's weak.
Same thing with Lost, J.J. Abrams, the TV show. Great premise, and then you get caught where you're like, I've written myself into a corner. I have no idea how this is supposed to end.
Well, then ask for help, then, because there's nothing wrong with it. You can take stuff to it. You're good at everything up to the end.
One of those series where I'm like, this has become the most disappointing. Maybe The Walking Dead got really disappointing. I stopped watching it. Lost, I was like, oh, it's such a good idea. So clever.
Stacey watched Lost, too.
And now? And then at the end, I was like, well, I'm done.
Did they just forget what they were going to do or had no idea what they were going to do?
I honestly believe they thought, we've got one season in us. They're never going to renew us.
Well, you know what? The Stranger Things guys didn't have a problem with that. Yeah. They're like, oh, we can keep writing? Sure, go ahead. We'll do it.
But, they thought they were going to be done after
That's
one
what I'm saying.
season.
The same thing. They didn't think it was going to last very long either. And I would argue that, for me, I don't know, but I can only speak for myself. The last season of Stranger Things was my favorite season so far. It was just, I don't know what it was about it, what happened. But I was like, oh, they'll never make this show better than the last season we saw, or the first one. No, it was just things happen where I'm like, these people are so creative in what they do, and they care about every bit of this show. And everybody's like, what's crazy? This is going on in Russia, and she's over there with him and trying to get him out of prison. They're like, it's hard to follow. I'm like, well, here's the problem. It's not hard to follow.
It's not.
You just need to watch it. People can't watch things anymore.
Put your phone down. You won't be distracted.
Yeah. Turn other things off, lock the door, whatever you need to do. Sit down and watch something and pay attention to it. That's all I'm asking.
I prefer those multi-thread storylines where you're trying to track several things happening and how they'll eventually all converge.
That's kind of how the way entertainment was. My dad told me that. He goes, well, son, you wouldn't like Mission Impossible, with Peter Graves, because that's a show that you have to really watch. If you go to the bathroom and miss one scene, you could be you've missed everything.
You'll be lost.
This one pivotal thing. Mm-hmm. And some things are like that. You have to really watch stuff. But some people now I'll do this. I'm guilty of this. If I've seen something 20 times or 100 times, I might just put it on and let it be playing, and I'll go do stuff around the house and hear it playing. And I'm like, I know this. It's in my head already. I just like hearing it. Because to me, putting a movie on that I've seen over and over again, or maybe a TV series playing in the background that I already know, that to me, I equate that with listening to music. I can use that as music as well. It's just playing in the background, and I know what it is.
My wife can do that. I cannot.
I'm hearing it. And
if I see something on it, I'll end up watching.
Oh, well, some things I have to watch. Some movies have that. If I start, name some movies that start where you're like, oh, wow, I'm in again. I cannot stop watching this. For me, Jaws is kind of that way. Oh, I own it. Why don't I just pull out the DVD? No, it's already on. FX is showing it. Let's just let it play. And during the regular commercial breaks, I'll go to the bathroom or fix something to eat or do something. First Superman's that way. We talked about Superman movies coming out in 4K. The first Superman film, it's a 3-act play. It's Krypton, Smallville, Metropolis, and it's a passage of time in each one. It's almost like a 3-act play. Mario Puzo, who had a hand in writing The Godfather, wrote a lot of the story to Superman. For the film, and he's a great writer. Mm-hmm. And Superman is a wonderfully written movie. They could have done the first one and never did another one, and it would have just stood on its own just like that. Tombstone is great. Tombstone comes on, you're like, I love that. And again, most of these movies, especially Tombstone and Jaws we're talking about, are quotable movies that we're talking about earlier. They have staying power.
Oh, well, let's face it, the first Star Wars, Empire.
Yeah.
Even Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's all together.
I'll be watching.
It's all together.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. The first three. There's a fourth one, I think, that I can't quote at all. I get images of gophers in my head and CGI gophers and ants and stuff. And see, no one could see you do that on the radio. That was funny.
That was just for you.
The people in the window could see you do that. Like, what's he dancing for? Not dancing. Are you doing the Caddyshack?
Yes, I'm doing the Caddyshack gopher.
I believe the Caddyshack gopher more than I did the Crystal Skull gophers. In fact, he could show up and show them a thing or two.
When the monkeys had the slick back hair.
Oh, and they were, and you're like, wow, screaming at you, CGI monkeys, CGI monkeys.
CGI ants, CGI monkeys, CGI forest, CGI set.
And I expect more from a Lucasfilm film who started effects with ILM. They were the genesis of the company. Why couldn't they do effects for their own movie right?
I think they were playing with cutting edge, and they thought it would be good enough to work, and it wasn't.
And I love Indiana Jones. What a great character. I mean, and that's why I have so much hope for the new Indiana Jones film, which still hasn't released a title yet. It's still Indy 5. They're still working on it. And who else is in it? Somebody else that's popular.
I didn't realize how good and how many movies I'd seen him in until I went back and started looking at his. I'm like, oh, I did see him in this, and
Doctor Strange.
Mads Mikkelsen's fantastic.
He has the burned out Dormammu eye follower.
Well, he was the first Bond villain with Daniel
Casino
Craig.
Royale. Oh, and in a very horrible, I can't stand to watch torture scene with Bond sitting in a chair involving a rope with a big knot tied.
He got him to scratch him.
I don't want to even think about it.
He's also in Rogue One, which is fantastic.
He is in Rogue One. Yeah, he played the girl, the hero girl's dad in it, right? Who had the plans for the Death Star or developed the Death Star.
Yeah, he was the scientist, and he knew
he didn't like what they were doing.
Right, he realized what they were up to. Yeah, such a good movie.
So a lot of stuff out there. There's a few more things I didn't get to because of time, but I'll put them on Facebook and all my social media. Find me out there on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's BK on there. I'm also on YouTube, SoundCloud, Anchor, and Spotify with the podcast. I turn the show into a podcast after it's over. I want to say a big hi to Scott Kimbler with GNN. Saw him at the Gabby Awards last week. It's BK on the air. Congratulations to everyone that won. It's BK.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, John Boy.
Say you wake up in the middle of the night, you got an idea that's out of sight.
So you jump out of bed and look around your room. You gotta write it down and send it to Zoom.
Or say you've just seen something on this show, or someone cool you just gotta know.
Write it all down, don't make a mess, and don't forget your name and address.
Include a stamp so we can drop you a card, then dip your note in a bucket of lard. Joe doesn't know what he's talking about. You put it in the envelope without a doubt.
Then take your typewriter, pencil, or pen, and if you make a mistake, you gotta do it again.
Write Zoom, Z-O-O-M, Box 350, Boston, Mass. 02134.
Well, at least Twiggy's on my side.